Hey Deckers, it's that time again where we look at the most played games on Steam Deck by hours played for last month, featuring stats from SDG Companion available on the iOS and Android app stores, as well as footage and performance recorded on the deck, some newer than others. Kicking things off then with number 20, Hogwarts Legacy down 3 places, which is an open world action RPG set in the world first introduced in the Harry Potter books. Embark on a journey through familiar and new locations as you explore and discover magical beasts, customize your character and craft potions, master spellcrafting, upgrade talents, and become the wizard you want to be. Performance is up and down, but we get a fairly solid 30 to 40 frames per second now with the FSR 3 implementation, and it will dip under that in major parts of Hogwarts, but for the most part it is definitely more playable than when it launched. At number 19, we have The Binding of Isaac Rebirth, up 3 places, making a re-entry into the charts. The Binding of Isaac is a randomly generated action RPG shooter with heavy roguelike elements. Follow Isaac on his journey as you find bizarre treasures which change Isaac's form, giving him superhuman abilities to fight off the droves of mysterious creatures. Takes a lot of getting used to, so if you are going to be diving into this one, you will have a lot of replayability. Dropping 8 places down to 18 is Kingdom Hearts HD 1.5 plus 2.5 Remix, which is an essential collection of the first 6 stories in the Kingdom Hearts series. Collaboration between Disney and Square Enix, where you wield the legendary Keyblade and unlock the true power of friendship as you explore Disney worlds and defend from darkness. Runs at a perfect 60 frames per second on the LCD or 90 on the OLED, 120 if you connect it to a screen that does it, with very little in the way of settings, so you're going to have a good 5 to 6 hours gameplay on this one, especially as it runs only at 8 to 9 watts. A surprise new entry at 17 of Forza Horizon 4. Now it's not available on Xbox Game Pass anymore, it seems like people are hopping over onto Steam, with up to 60,000 daily active players in the last month. With dynamic seasons, everything changes at the world's greatest automotive festival. Go it alone or team up with others to explore beautiful and historic Britain in a shared open world. Collect and modify and drive over 450 cars, race, stunt, create and explore. Choose your own path to a Horizon superstar. This actually runs incredibly well on the deck with a few tweaks, and we will be creating a dedicated video with our best settings on this very soon, so keep an eye out on the channel. Back into the top 20 with number 16 is The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. Trained from early childhood and mutated to gain superhuman skills, strength and reflexes, witchers are a counterbalance to the monster-infested world in which they live. Gruesomely destroy foes as a professional monster hunter armed with a range of upgraded weapons, mutating potions and combat magic. With our best settings which still stand, we are sticking around the 30 to 40 frames per second mark, but it is heavy on the battery drain, so you're only going to get a couple of hours on this one. Dropping a massive 11 places down to 15 is Hades 2. As the immortal princess of the underworld, you'll explore a bigger, deeper mythic world, vanquishing the forces of the Titan of Time with the full might of Olympus behind you, in a sweeping story that continually unfolds through your every setback and accomplishment. If you haven't played the first one, which is higher up in the chart, then it's highly recommended, but you're not going to miss out a huge amount if you dive straight into the second one, running at a perfect 60 on the LCD and 90 on the OLED, with around 11 watts. You can get a good 4 to 6 hours gameplay on this one. Down one spot to number 14 is Cyberpunk 2077, an open world action adventure RPG set in the megapocalypse of Night City, and also now Dogtown with the DLC, where you play as a cyberpunk mercenary wrapped up in a do-or-die fight for survival. Improved and featuring all new free additional content, as well as being able to customize your character and playstyle as you take on jobs, build a reputation and unlock upgrades. The relationships you forge and the choices you make will shape the story and world around you. Don't expect much more than 30 frames per second on this one in the open world before you hit Dogtown. It's pretty good, even up into the 40s and 50s occasionally, but in Dogtown it's a struggle to hold 30 frames per second even with our recommended settings, so bear that in mind when you get the DLC. A much easier game to run though, up 6 places to 13, is Deep Rock Galactic Survivor. Although it won't hold a perfect 90 frames per second on the OLED, it will hold 60 on the LCD and may struggle just a tiny bit when the hordes really close in, pushing a good 22 watts, meaning you're only going to get around 2.5 to 3 hours gameplay. In this one you get to kill bugs, upgrade your gear and delve ever deeper into the lethal caves of Hoxas. Collect and assemble a devastating array of guns, unleash hell upon wave after wave of alien monsters in fast frantic combat, and tunnel your way around to collect precious riches from deep within the cave walls. Simplicity is key, with number 12 up 3 places of Slay the Spire. Choose your cards wisely, discover hundreds of cards to add to your deck with each attempt at climbing the spire. Whenever you embark on a journey up the spire, the layout differs every time. Choose a risky or safe path, face different enemies, choose your cards and gain different relics. Only pulling around 8 bots on this one, you are going to get around 5 to 6 hours easily on the LCD and upwards of 8 hours on the OLED, so it's no surprise this one is up here on the deck. Back up 3 places to number 11 is Red Dead Redemption 2, still one of the most beautiful games to be playing on the deck, and as long as you don't run more than 1 gig of VRAM, you're not going to have any issues with the frames per second, and with our recommendation you'll be getting a good 40 to 50 with it looking absolutely stunning. It does push quite high on the wattage though, so only expect around 2 hours gameplay, but as you are running around as Arthur Morgan and the Vandalin gang, who are outlaws on the run, with federal agents and the best bounty hunters in the nation massing on your heels. The gang must rob, steal and fight their way across the rugged heartland of America in order to survive. Dropping 4 places to number 10 is Fallout 4, still pushing around 37,000 daily active players. That might have something to do with the Fallout London mod that's dropped recently. However, if you are running the latest remastered version, then that's not going to work for you. We are looking at making a guide for Fallout London, but it's going to be a while as it's actually quite involved, especially on the Steam Deck. But if you are going to keep with the standard version, then you're going to be able to get up to 60 frames per second, but only around 2 to 3 hours gameplay with that higher wattage, but it is playing fantastically well on the deck. As the sole survivor of Vault 111, you enter a world destroyed by nuclear war. Do whatever you want in a massive open world with hundreds of locations, characters and quests. Holding firm in the charts and up another 2 spots is Vampire Survivors, now running at a perfect 60 frames per second on the LCD, and you'll get 90 on the OLED if you really want to push it, with a good 5 to 6 hours gameplay as well. A time survival game with minimalistic gameplay and roguelike elements. Hell is empty, the devils are here and there is no place to run or hide. All you can do is survive as long as you can until death puts an end to your struggles. Gather gold in each run to buy upgrades and help the next survivor. Back up 4 places to number 8 is Grand Theft Auto 5. When a young street hustler, a retired bank robber and a terrifying psychopath find themselves entangled with some of the most frightening and deranged elements of the criminal underworld, the US government and the entertainment industry, they must pull off a series of dangerous heists to survive in a ruthless city where you trust absolutely no one, including each other. Running at a good 60 to 80 frames per second on the OLED and a solid 60 on the LCD at pretty much the highest settings as long as you don't turn MSAA on. This is fantastic on the deck and we will update our guides on this soon. Holding firm at number 7, as kind of mentioned earlier, is the original Hades. Still pushing 6,000 to 10,000 daily active players on Steam, running at a solid 60 frames per second on the LCD and OLED. You're going to get a good 5 to 6 hours gameplay with this as well. As the immortal prince of the underworld, you'll wield the powers of mythic weapons of Olympus to break free from the clutches of the god of death himself, while growing stronger and unraveling more of the story with each unique escape attempt. Jumping up 3 places to number 6 is Dave the Diver. Pushing an incredible 10 to 11 watts, you're going to get a good 4 to 6 hours gameplay on this on the LCD to OLED, and with it running at a perfect 60 frames per second, it's no real surprise. Nothing in the way really of settings, it just runs very well. A combination of pixel and 3D graphics provide a stunning art style that showcases breathtaking underwater scenery. Explore and unravel the mysteries in the depths of the blue hole by day, and run a successful exotic sushi restaurant by night. Jumping up an incredible 30 places in the charts, making its re-entry into the top 20 as number 5. No Man's Sky got its World 1 update, which makes it look even better on PC and especially the Steam Deck without compromising performance either. We will update our guide on this, but as you can see, we're getting a good 50 to 60 frames per second and pushing around 19 to 20 watts, so you're still going to get a good 2 to 4 hours gameplay with this one. In No Man's Sky, every star is the light of a distant sun, each orbited by planets filled with life, and you can go to any one of them you choose. Fly smoothly from space to planetary surfaces with no loading screens and no limits. Up one place is the fantastic Baldur's Gate 3, but it really doesn't warrant its verified title, as you can see here in Act 3 through Riverton and Baldur's Gate, pushing only around 20 to 25 frames per second at the best of times. However, the rest of the acts you can push 30 to 40 frames per second very easily, so you can be a little bit forgiving, but really should have only playable status. Abducted, infected and lost, you are turning into a monster, but as the corruption inside you grows, so does your power. That power may help you to survive, but there will be a price to pay, and more than any ability, the bonds of trust that you build within your party will be your greatest strength. Caught in a conflict between devils, deities and sinister otherworldly forces, you will determine the fate of the Forgotten Realms. Balatro continues to impress, moving up one place to number 3. Which is a poker roguelite where you combine valid poker hands with unique joker cards in order to create varied synergies and builds. Earn enough chips to beat devious blinds, all while uncovering hidden bonus hands and decks as you progress. You're going to need every edge you can get in order to reach the boss blind, beat the final ante and secure victory. Another easy to run one on the deck, pushing a solid 60 on the LCD and 90 on the OLED, and only pushing just over 8 watts, meaning you can get a good 5 to 8 hours gameplay on the OLED and about 3 to 5 hours on the LCD deck. But Stardew Valley is still holding strong at number 2, only pushes around 6 to 7 watts, so you're going to get a good 6 to 8 hours even on the LCD, and pushing close to 10 hours on the OLED. You've inherited your grandfather's old farm plot, and armed with hand-me-down tools and a few coins, you set out to begin your new life. Can you learn to live off the land and turn these overgrown fields into a thriving home? It won't be easy. Ever since Joja Corporation came to town, the old ways of life have all but disappeared. Still holding firm though at number 1 is Elden Ring, with its new DLC pushing between 195 and 300,000 daily active players on Steam. Rise, tarnish and be guided by grace to brandish the power of the Elden Ring and become an Elden Lord. In a vast open world where open fields with a variety of situations and huge dungeons with complex and three-dimensional designs are seamlessly connected, you'll discover unknown and overwhelming threats that await you. Or running around aimlessly lost, wondering what to do next, as I generally end up doing in this one. The DLC does seem to push things a little bit harder, but the main areas still run at a good 30 to 40 frames per second on medium to high graphic settings with our previously recommended settings, which don't really need much tweaking, but we have heard the DLC area does run a little bit lower, however we're just not good enough to get in there yet. Let us know in the comments below which of these games you've been running on the deck, and if you're not playing one of these, what have you been playing? Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.